Picture yourself holding a torch made of animal fat, the flame flickering, about to die out in your hand. Darkness surrounds you, thick, swallowing everything, except that tiny circle of light in front of you. You have to crawl. Rock scrapes your knees. The air is damp and heavy. How far below the surface are you? You don't know. So why would you crawl into a place sunlight has never touched? 17,000 years ago, people did exactly that. Not once, over and over, across generations. They weren't looking for shelter. They weren't looking for food. They pushed deep into the mountain, sometimes over a mile in, just to paint. Today, you snap a photo in half a second and scroll past it forever. Your ancestors did something completely different. They spent hours, sometimes days, grinding red ochre into pigment, mixing it with animal fat, building scaffolding out of tree branches just to reach a high ceiling. Then they crawled through narrow gaps, all to leave a single mark in a place almost no one would ever see. What could possibly be worth risking your life for? Lascaux in France is part of the answer. Inside are over 600 paintings, mostly massive bison, wild horses, deer, all captured mid-motion, as if frozen in a single stride. Here's what archaeologists found strange. The most detailed, most beautiful paintings weren't near the entrance, where they'd be easy to see. They were buried deep inside, in places daylight had never once reached. Chauvet Cave is even older, around 30,000 years old. There, researchers found a child's footprints, running alongside the tracks of a wolf, pressed into clay that hardened over tens of thousands of years. What happened between them in the dark? No one knows. But the fact that those two sets of tracks are still sitting side by side after 30,000 years with no explanation at all is enough to send a chill down your spine. You might assume this was just something bored people did with spare time, but they weren't bored. They were living through the Ice Age. Temperatures dropping below zero. Every single day was a negotiation with hunger, cold, and predators waiting outside. Every calorie mattered. So why, in the middle of all that pressure just to survive, would they spend dozens of hours on a painting almost nobody would ever lay eyes on? Here's where the answer takes a turn you probably didn't expect. Many anthropologists believe these paintings weren't decoration at all. They were a form of technology, a way to store survival knowledge in images, because spoken words vanish the second they're spoken. That bison on the wall isn't just a bison, it's a lesson about migration routes, about which season the herds appear, about which direction to stand when you're hunting downwind. Art, it turns out, was humanity's first textbook, tens of thousands of years before writing existed. But there's a deeper layer still. Archaeologist David Lewis Williams proposed a theory that stirred plenty of controversy. These paintings may have been made in altered states of consciousness, brought on by prolonged fasting, sensory deprivation, or rituals stretched out over days, in total darkness. The painters weren't just recording the outside world, they believed they were touching another world, one sitting right behind the rock. For them, the cave wall wasn't a boundary, it was closer to a thin curtain separating two realities. Have you ever stood in front of a wall and felt like something was waiting on the other side of it? At the cave of Trois-Frères, researchers found a strange figure, half human, half animal, with antlers, wolf ears, but standing upright like a person. They call it the Sorcerer. No one is certain if it's a god, a shaman, or the image of what a person hoped to become. But it proves something important. Very early on, humans weren't just painting what they saw, they were painting what they imagined. And this is where everything flips upside down. We tend to assume our ancestors were simple, just eating, sleeping, dodging predators, running purely on instinct. But these paintings prove the exact opposite. Before writing, before the wheel, before agriculture even existed, humans already carried a need no other species has: the need to leave behind proof that they existed after they were gone. Art wasn't a byproduct of civilization, it's what created civilization in the first place. There's one more detail that complicates the story even further. Archaeologist Dean Snow measured finger-length ratios on hundreds of handprints found in these ancient caves. The results were surprising. Most of them, possibly as many as 3 out of 4, belonged to women. For over a century of research, scientists simply assumed men, the hunters, were the ones holding the brush. But the evidence tells a very different story about who humanity's first artists actually were. Every time we think we've finally figured out the past turns around and proves us wrong. Try to picture this: no flashlight, no map, just a torch that burns for maybe 30 minutes before it needs replacing. And still, they went over a mile into the mountain, through pitch-black turns, through gaps they had to crawl through on their stomachs, all to stop at one exact spot. Maybe because the echo sounded different there, or because the natural shape of the rock looked like an animal. They finished the painting, then walked back out, leaving the work behind in permanent darkness. No light, no audience, sometimes decades before another person stumbled onto it. Have you ever made something knowing full well almost no one would ever see it, but did it anyway, just because you needed to? Now think about yourself, right now. You don't have to crawl through darkness to paint a bison with crushed red ochre. You've got a phone in your pocket. Paint just one tap away. An entire world of creative tools sitting in the palm of your hand. But have you ever made something not for the likes, not to be seen, but just because you needed to leave proof that you were here? 17,000 years later, those paintings are still sitting there on the rock, while the people who made them turned to dust a long, long time ago. They never knew your face, but right now, as you look at that bison through a screen, they just spoke to you across 17,000 years of darkness. And if a painting made in the dark can survive 17,000 years just to reach you today, then whatever you're making right now, no matter how small it feels, might carry more weight than you'll ever know. If this story made you look at the past a little differently, hit subscribe right now. There are a lot more secrets about our ancestors waiting to be told, and you won't want to miss the next one.